Hello, I see we're doing this again. Should we just get straight to it? Okay, so we were asked 4 questions and we have to respond in our own opinions, in our own fashion, and of course, using our own personalities, which we can't hide a personality, right? So let's get started. Question number 1. Based on your understanding of Herzberg's 2-factor theory of job satisfaction, what types of incentives or employee programs are most likely to reduce job dissatisfaction? What types of incentives or employee programs are most likely to increase job satisfaction? Okay, this is a good one. So Herzberg's theory basically says that there are 2 types of things that affect how people feel about their job. And those things are hygiene factors and motivators. Now, hygiene factors are things like your pay, schedules, our job security, company rules, working conditions. And these aren't things that are placed there to really make people happy per se, but they do keep people from being what we would call unhappy. How do you say? You don't really notice these things when they're working right. Like getting paid on time, having a normal schedule. These are things that are just expected. It's something that you're used to. It's something that you don't even think about until it goes wrong. So it only becomes a problem when something goes wrong, right? Like when I worked for America's Best and I was being ousted, discriminated against, treated like I was expendable. Pay came late. Pay was lower than expected. I was even sexually harassed at work, in the workplace, by the person that you would least expect this to come from, my own manager. And it was just a disgusting experience. If it weren't for the customers, I wouldn't have been able to deal, honestly. And motivators, those are different. These include things more like recognition, achievement, responsibility, and more opportunity for growth, right? Again, I'm going to have to use the same place as an example. At America's Best, I definitely did see both sides of the coin. Having a schedule, knowing my responsibilities, and having the tools that I needed made the job easier and less stressful. But that wasn't what made me actually enjoy the job, considering all the things that I had to deal with. Luckily for me, what stood out more was helping customers, solving their problems, being able to communicate with different kinds of people. That's what makes me happy, is helping people. And since I speak multiple languages, I was able to help customers who might have had communication issues with other members of the staff, because I speak English, I speak Creole, and I speak some Spanish. And the other members of the staff, they spoke neither of those. Zip, zero. Those kinds of moments felt more meaningful to me. It felt like I was actually accomplishing something, not just going through the motions and just completing the tasks. So, number 2 said, compare McLeland's acquired needs theory and its emphasis on needs being shaped by experience and cultural background over time to Maslow's hierarchy of needs and ERG theory. Of these three theories, which do you think provides the most useful and realistic explanation for human development and motivation? And why? These are some very good questions here. Maslow's theory essentially says that people move through levels of needs, starting with basic survival, and then stepping up to safety, and then relationships, esteem, and at the top, actual self-actualization. It doesn't make sense to me, honestly, but the ERG theory simplifies that stuff into more so existence, relatableness, and growth. Simply put. And I would have to say that ERG feels more realistic to me because people don't always go in order like Maslow suggests. I personally do not go in order. My mind is always a jumble, okay? So McLelland's theory actually focuses on learned needs, which are achievement, affiliation, and power. The idea is that motivation develops through experience and background. From my own experience, especially being someone who worked in customer service, I would have to say that I noticed how much experience can shape confidence and motivation, and how dealing with different customers and situations can help you become more comfortable communicating and problem solving and handling yourselves at work or around people, period. Honestly, it gives you people skills. That probably did increase my need for achievement because I do like seeing results and knowing that I helped someone. Personally, though, I would have to say that the ERG theory is the one that makes the most sense overall. Because in real life, people aren't thinking step by step by step by step. They're not thinking, oh my gosh, the experience is what's going to get me there only. You know, in real life, people are thinking about all of this at the same time. We're thinking multiple things at once, not just one level at a time. And as a student, for example, I'm thinking about school, I'm thinking about money, I'm thinking about my career goals, my personal growth, achievements, all at the same time, not tier by tier. So that's why I would say it has to be the ERG. Now, question 3. Assume you are a manager of an auto dealership and all your salespeople and employees are achieving the goals they have set for themselves in terms of weekly car sales. On the surface, this would seem to be a good thing. However, what could be the problem with this? This is another good question. How would I do this? At first, if all employees are hitting their sales goals, it sounds like a great thing. You wouldn't think automatically, okay, there might be an issue with this. But the problem might be that the goals that they're setting are too easy. That's where the problem will lie. This actually happens more than people realize in the workplace. Employees might set goals that they know they can achieve instead of actually pushing themselves and setting themselves to higher standards. You know, they just, they're complacent. They're at a level where they're just comfortable instead of actually trying to achieve more and do better. So it might look like success on paper, it might not reflect their full potential. We need the full potential. And I think that this happens in school as well. Sometimes people set goals just to make sure they can hit them. Instead of worrying about getting that A that you know that you can get, and instead of challenging themselves, they go for the as long as I pass, it doesn't matter standard. So the issue becomes comfort instead of growth. You're just at a comfortable level where you're like, okay, well, I got a C, but not a D, so I passed. When you should really be going for that A, studying, pushing yourself, trying to actually achieve some growth. So another problem is alignment with company goals. Your standards might not be the company's standard. So yeah, you set these little goals for yourself at a comfortable level, but the company needs you to achieve higher goals. And that's how they profit. And even if everyone is meeting their personal goals, the actual company or organization might not be performing at its best because of this. So individual success doesn't always equal company success, because company success relies on people who want to push themselves and strive to do better, achieve better, and actually challenge themselves to a higher standard. Question number 4. To what extent are perceptions of procedural justice versus distributive justice a matter of perception? How could managers reduce inaccurate perceptions of workplace inequities? Now, this question actually seemed like a little jumble when I first read it, but let's go into it again. I had to read it a few times. Distributive justice is more so about whether the outcome feels fair. Like your pay, getting a promotion, these rewards. Do these outcomes feel fair or are they unfair? Versus procedural justice, which is about whether the process used to make those decisions is what feels fair. So that's the difference between the two. And this is where perception really matters, because two people can go through the same situation and see it differently. We all have different mentalities, different perceptions, different ways of interpretation. We're individuals, right? So we're never the same. From my experience working with different people, I noticed that, misunderstandings and, lack of communication, and also some of those clashes, they often come from the lack of communication, actually. Lack of proper communication is actually what I referred to here. People, they assume that unfairness and favoritism when they don't understand how decisions were made. Now, even when it's not actually the case. So managers can actually help reduce this by being more what you call transparent and more consistent, having more consistency and transparency. That helps a lot. And this is why managers need to be trained better, honestly, in many of these industries. Because explaining the why behind a decision makes a huge difference, bigger than anybody really knows. Even if someone doesn't like the outcome of that decision, they're more likely to accept it if the process feels fair. the procedural justice right there. If the process doesn't feel fair, then of course they're not going to go with it, right? So procedural justice is something that is definitely necessary when it comes to management. And distributive justice is pretty simple, honestly. Everybody wants their pay, they want their promotions, they want their reward. I mean, that's just distributive justice right there. It's just a compact, put it in an envelope, seal it, and hand it over. Well, procedural justice, that takes some more work, some more explanation, some more transparency. And so I would go ahead and say that overall, these theories all come back to understanding people in the workplace. Seems to be basically what we're focusing on here. There's a commonality within all of these discussions that always come back to understanding people in the workplace. So it's really about motivation. It's more so about fairness and how people interpret their environment. We want to be comfortable. We want to understand. We want to feel motivated. We want to be treated fairly. We don't want to be ousted, and we don't want to be getting unfair pay and consequences to actions that are unnecessary. So employees, we want structure. We want recognition. We want clear communication. This is why I feel like manager training, it doesn't matter how much experience you think you have, there should be a mandatory training when it comes to management, because it will help them actually deal properly with the employees on their team. And so managers who understand that we want the structure, we want the recognition, we want the clear communication and transparency, those are the managers that tend to build better, more effective teams.